Well, first of all, Sheriff, it's an honor for us to be here today, and we thank you for inviting us into your inner sanctum here, your offices, and it's an honor.
Thank you. Anytime we have the opportunity to voice our message on the Sheriff's Office, let people get to know me a little bit, I take that opportunity, my department takes that opportunity. We want people to know what the Sheriff's Department is.
Sure.
We serve them. That's why we're here.
And that's why we're here.
Okay.
And so, thank you. Let's start off, and I'm joined here by Jonathan Shackett, a freelance reporter who will be talking with you about border-related issues. First of all, let's talk a bit about the sorts of things that you've done to make this your administration. Obviously, you followed a 15-year sheriff veteran, if you will.
Correct.
And I think that, and he was quite popular.
Correct.
And one of the things that I'm curious about was the Sheriff Deaver's demise and the impact that had on the community. Did that make it any more difficult for you to settle into the job?
It did. First of all, let me give you a little history. I've served in Cochise County, starting with the Bisbee Police Department in '84, then January of '86 coming with the Sheriff's Department, and had the opportunity to serve all the citizens here in Cochise County for May was just over 29 years for me in the county working, and Larry and I, Sheriff Deaver and I, worked for my whole career with him. And so besides losing an iconic sheriff and a public servant, we also, me speaking personally, I lost a friend. So it was tough. It was very tough, which put an extra burden on, number one, the election, when you're trying to focus on there's an unsettledness, I guess, a conscious unsettledness when you're trying to run for an office that was vacated by your friend, especially some unforeseen circumstances.
And a lot of people's friend.
And he was very iconic. I tell people all the time, and he was well respected in this county. And this people say you're filling some big shoes. I tell people Larry earned his shoes, and they were big, and he earned them. My shoes are small. And if I put myself in his shoes, I would trip. There's no doubt about it. We were aligned in many ways, whether it be border issues, whether it be community policing, and so I have that experience to work off of and build upon. And the Sheriff's Department's a legacy agency here in Cochise County. It's what holds this county together, I think, in all aspects of law enforcement and public safety.
It's the one thing we all have in common.
It is, and it's a unique and only office where the people have decision who runs public safety, and that's a very sensitive to many, very sensitive to me, and I embrace that, and I'm blessed to be the 26th sheriff here in Cochise County.
26. And so what sorts of things have you done to make this your administration?
Well, the day after the election, when I was blessed by the people of Cochise County to sit in this seat that I'm sitting here right today, and by the way, the seat I'm not sitting in actually is my chair. Larry Deaver sat in the chair that was formerly here for 16 years. I donated that chair. We replaced it. It was an older chair, and instead of making it surplus and into a warehouse where it'll get rained on and get destroyed, it was actually donated to the Larry Deaver family. They put a little memorable room together for him that is now in there for the family. And
somebody of the Deaver Library.
Yes,
in his home there.
So they have that chair at this time. And so after the election, I assembled a transition team, and that team was to help transition the department and myself into where the department needs to go, and as we progress into the future. Time's not stopping. We recognize that as we the mourn loss of our sheriff. And so with this group of both community members and current leaders within the organization, we did that. So on January 1st, instead of delaying time, we were actually pushing buttons, implementing plans. The number one thing, I ran on three things. The number one is organizational development, and that is simply put is our employees. We need to recognize, we need to recruit the best out there that can serve the people, and then we need to retain them, and we need to reward them. They do an awesome job. I compare them similar to teachers. I mean, they're most vital to the success of our communities, teachers and law enforcement. And so embracing our employees, and we've done that.
And you're not all that removed from the rank and file yourself.
No, like I said, I've actually officially, I was one of Larry's senior command people, kind of a little history there, and I retired officially in 2008. And the reason I did that was Sheriff Deaver wanted to do one more term in 2008 to 12, and so...
Before that, you had expected to run when you actually did, and then he informed you, I need one more term to kind of wrap things up here.
Yeah, as we all know, he was very involved in border security and immigration issues, and he was being sued. Now, currently, I'm being sued by the Department of Justice in regards to SB 1070. It's an ongoing litigation in our courts, but so he wanted to do one more term and try to settle that and to get some resolution on that. And so he had
But you inherited that.
and I inherited that by being the new sheriff, and we're going to continue the battle. I can say that to you right now, and we're doing that in many aspects, and I'll talk about that here hopefully in a few minutes. But so, and being with the department, when I retired in 2008 as commander, Larry and I spoke, and the reason was I wanted to enhance my leadership skill. I finished my master's degree. I became a police chief for 3 years, and to an agency that needed some help, and brought some community trust back into that agency and professionalism, and it was a nice town. I enjoyed working there. Came back in 2011, but the 3 years I was gone, and I say gone in a full-time paid capacity, I came back every 3 months and worked here as a reserve deputy. And the 3 years I was gone, I missed my hours one time by 3 hours, which I thought was pretty commendable. I was traveling all the way from Oregon to southern Arizona, but I had the passion and desire, as a gold mine, was to run for sheriff. Larry and I spoke in 2011, and I yielded to him for the right reasons, obviously. And
It's not like you had a lot of choice.
well, no, he was iconic. He had earned that, and,
Sure.
and I respected that. And plus, he was my friend.
Yep.
And though it was disappointing, I'll be the first to say it, I had a goal in mind, but he said, come back and work for me, which I did, for the department. And then he goes, in 16, we'll go for 16 and support and get you elected in 16. So then the unforeseen happened, as we all know. So, but again, so we need to pick it up, be strong, move the department forward like you'd want to do, and that's what we've done. But I ran on three things. The number one, like I just said a few minutes ago, was the organization development, and that's how can we best serve the people of Cochise County. We looked at every program, every resource we have, all the staffing we have, and we redirected that back into our communities. And one thing I'm hearing a lot of from our citizens, which is my teachers, they provide me the grade, the citizens, is we see more and more of the deputies out there. We want quality law enforcement being served out there and being provided, and that's what people expect. And so we've taken people out of offices. We've structured some defined units to deal with some of our specialty issues that we have here in Cochise County. We're a unique county, 6,300 square miles, 83 miles of international border, and we're still just under 50%, it's at 47% of smuggling coming through our county.
Almost half of it here.
Right, and so, and I'm huge on partnership. And what I mean by that is we can't be monopolistic when it comes to our efforts here. We need to partner and bridge with other law enforcement agencies, community, organizations within communities, at all levels. And we've done that. I brought back the chiefs and leadership meetings. Our last meeting, we do them quarterly now, where we come together, all the chiefs, myself, the state folks of law enforcement, and the federal leaders, to say, what can we do to serve the mission of making our community safer? I can influence, and I can speak my mind. But my direct control is here in Cochise County. I was elected by the people here, not those in Washington, D.C., and that's not being mean. That's
So
all-
one of the, not to interrupt, but one of the changes then that you made is you put more people on the street.
We did, and we're getting comments back. I see more and more deputies out there, and I want that. I'm out there. I spend 3 to 4 hours a week in my office. My week is out there. My office is my car, and I'm out in meetings. I speak 4, 5, 6 times a week to different groups. I interact in meetings. Yesterday was a 16-hour day, and that's great. I'm loving every minute of it. And I get up every morning. I'm just so excited to be sitting where I'm sitting and having the opportunity to serve the people and make a difference in a positive way in people's lives. And it's an easy statement, very complex in nature. Trust me on that. So the department's doing well. They really are. The men and women are doing a great job here, not just in the Sheriff's Department, but all over Cochise County and law enforcement, as we serve under that community mission to make things better and build our partnerships. So that's working real well. We've got an employee recognition program built into the department now. We recognize the civilian support a volunteer, a deputy, a detention officer, and a support. I say support. 4 different categories that we do every quarter. We've done 2 quarters already with them. Whether there are pictures now hanging in our lobby when you come in the office there that we have established. Recognition every week at our staff meetings. If somebody does something good, whether recognized by their peers or the community, we bring them in and recognize them in front of all our senior staff.
Were there morale problems in the prior administration?
No, I don't want to go there with that. What I will say is that we revitalized our roles within the sheriff's office. And what I mean by that is we have about a little less than 300 people that serve the mission of the sheriff's office, all the way from volunteers to detention to deputies to support. I sat down with every one of them, and every one of them took an oath of office, and that is to support the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Arizona. And the reason I did that is because we're all one big team here serving that mission. But we also went back and looked at why we serve. By Constitution, we'd have a sheriff, but we have an office because we have people to serve. And that's the number one thing we got to do out there. Embrace our people and serve the people in the best way we can. And so we went back and we talked about that. Not to be position driven. That's not what we're looking for. I don't need people to be position driven. That goes for me too. I sent a message to them all. And I sent the message when we sat down and talked to all the folks in the sheriff's office. And I told them, I said, remember one thing. My position as sheriff is temporary. I won't be the sheriff forever in Cochise County. I understand that and I respect that. They won't be in law enforcement forever. Some short term, some long term, based on their decisions in life. But most important is that'll last a lifetime is building relationships. Strive to build relationships here in Cochise County, both our people that live here and the guests that visit our county. And that's what lasts a lifetime. So we talked about that and the quality of ourselves and the quality of the department, the legacy of the department, the quality of the service we provide. All that we have gone over. This morning, I spent 2.5 hours with my newly promoted lieutenants. I have 4 newly promoted lieutenants plus an existing one. So 5. When we spent, they're coming off probation here in a couple weeks. They were promoted after I took office. And I spent 2.5 hours talking about where they're at, where they progressed from since January 1, and where's their leadership, and where we're going to the future. We're putting a strategic plan together, and that plan is to carry us for the next 5 years in the Sheriff's Department. So we have a path and a process and a method how to get there. And my senior staff there, all my command people were there this morning, and it's just to put it on the table. We meet weekly anyway, but this was a specific about leadership and the training and how important it is to embrace the people that work for us so they can embrace the people they serve. So.
We did ask some of our subscribers if they had any questions,
Sure.
and we got a few. One that I found was interesting. I think early on in your administration, you made a kind of what I would call a Sheriff Mack sort of statement about states' rights and
Right.
what have you. And so one of the questions was, have you joined Sheriff Mack? Or tell us, what was the essence of this statement that you made early on about the states' rights and really not to be subjugated by the federal government.
Well, and that's part of a comprehensive understanding of what my role is as sheriff. Again, I said this earlier in the interview. I'm elected by the people of Cochise County to serve them, protect their liberties, and I take an oath, like every law enforcement officer does in this country, and especially sheriffs who are elected by the people in their respective counties, is to support the Constitution of the United States and the laws of the state of Arizona. I obey all laws. That's why I have the privilege and honor to be a sheriff. But I enforce state and local laws. I don't enforce federal law, and the federal government doesn't enforce state and local laws. We have a separation of enforcement authority, which is a good thing. Combined, we can do a lot of good things for our communities. That's a partnership I was talking about earlier. But there's an understanding of what we have to do to get the job done and what our roles are. One of the things that sparked that was the violence in this country. And when I speak, I talk about this. I think it's clear that when it comes to this comprehensive, this came after the shooting in Newtown and the gun issues that came out of that. And this is part of my comprehensive plan. You look back 30, 40, 50 years in life, and I can look back in that based on my age, unfortunately I have to say that where we've gone in a society, in a community, and where we're at now. And I look at 3 things that are institutionally broke in this country. One, family. One, faith, and the other is education. And I truly believe as individuals in our societies and our communities, we need to work together to make a difference in putting that back together. Because right now they're fractured. They really are. You look at our last 4 major issues in this country, all the way from the Newtown shooting, horrific by all means, with the kids being killed. You look at the stabbing in Texas, 17 people stabbed. You look at the 3 girls kidnapped in Cleveland, Ohio. Then you look at our Boston bombing, the 2 subjects that hurt and killed people in Boston. The common denominator is violence. We as society need to take a handle on that. One of the other issues I spoke about and addressed in my comprehensive statement that you're talking about was the mental illness in this country. There's 57 million people in this country that have mental illness. That doesn't mean they're criminals. Unfortunately, you look at the last few of our shootings, they've been involved people with mental illness. There's no avoidance on that. That's real. And the people that were injured, it's real and killed. And the families that are suffering through that, I totally respect and sympathize with them. But the reality is there's a lot of people out there that have mental illness. Those coming back from the wars, those that work in law enforcement, we're not immune from that. All the different facets of our communities. We need not stigmatize those with mental illness. We need to embrace them and help them provide the resources that are out there for them.
Are we still impacted by Reagan's move during his administration where it seemed like there was less emphasis and less funding for hospitals for mentally ill people, and a lot of people were released?
Well, unfortunately, in my 29 plus years in law enforcement, it's sad to say, but I will say it based on my experience, and I don't think it's isolated or exclusive to just Cochise County. When I speak to my other partners in law enforcement throughout this country, is the fact that mental illness needs not be a discretionary thought. It needs to be a mandated resource for our folks out there with the many things in a very unrest country that we all live in right now. So yes, it is. Our facility here in Cochise County on May 1st closed its doors. We don't have a mental facility here in Cochise County that I'm outreaching with our county manager, Mike Ortega, and others to say we need to come bring up a solution. I'm a solution-driven person. We need to have some solutions on this because right now I have deputies and detention officers that take these folks that are in need of treatment to Phoenix, Tucson. That's outreaching, and it takes time and money to these folks. Right now, we have folks in our jail right now that are sitting in our jail that have mental illness that should not be there. I was down there last week, and it's sad to say. Jails aren't treatment centers. They're there for punishment and safety for our communities to pull people back. But put somebody there with a mental illness is a stall plan. We're stalling until we can find an answer, and I'm opposed to that.
Now, you've raised a couple of questions that I hadn't thought of. You mentioned the jail.
Correct.
There's at any given time, give or take, a couple hundred people in there. Do you have the funding and the staff and the training necessary to deal with the various medical problems that this many people can have while they're here in the jail?
Yes and no. When it comes to, we have a medical staff provided to us by the Cochise County Health Department, and they do an awesome job working with the folks at our jail for medical issues. Now, mental issues is another issue. We have a very limited staff on that. We're not a facility designed to support that when it comes to mental illness. So that's a no part of it. So what we do is we have them in cells until we can find a remedy to them. That's tough to do because you need good people in that profession to help us with that. And so we have people come in and do that. We have a couple on staff that help us with that. But and what the other issue about that is when we bring those with mental illness and those with violent tendencies that we have to segregate throughout our jail, what that does is take space up. And our jail is about 300 population in size it can hold. But when you start putting in our remanded juveniles, which have to be isolated, just like the other ones, what does it takes up a lot of space. So we're in the process of looking at a remodel right now, and we just got the designs in so we can start not adding on, but remodel and start dividing our jail up so we can start segregating some of the special cases that we have at our jail that's really harming us and hindering us in what we can do. So there's a lot of challenges just in the jail itself. That could be a talk we can speak all day on, but we're all over that.
You mentioned Newtown.
Correct.
Were you surprised after Newtown, where there was so much sentiment in the country, to at least tighten up background checks? That there be more universal background checks. 90% of the country supposedly was in favor of that, once again, give or take. Were you surprised that Congress didn't act on that? And how do you feel about having universal background checks?
Well, to begin with this, I was not surprised. You have children killed in a horrific situation. This country wants answers. They want to know why. Understandably so. I think we all do. I mean, these are our children. This is our future, and they're being gunned down by a dangerous person. Let's put it that way. They took their young lives too early. There's no doubt about it. So no, I'm not surprised at all. If we had something similar here, people would want answers from me. They would want answers from the what can we do to fix that?
But are you surprised that Congress didn't act in regards to what the public apparently wanted to see happen? At least that.
It's very diverse. It's very highly debated. I've been to many, many meetings. I can see the emotional side of this. I look at the comprehensive side. What's best as we move future?
But what's the downside of universal background checks?
Well, here. Let me just clarify something. Is we already have a background check system in place. Is it being properly utilized? That's the question.
Do you think there should be background checks at gun shows?
You know, even the NRA didn't oppose background checks, and I'm not an NRA member. I'm not saying that, but even NRA didn't oppose background checks at gun shows. The issue is, and this is where I stand, is just like the laws on the books, just like and like I said, there are already background checks in place. Is it being properly applied? And the answer I would think you say is no.
Well, where does it fall short?
Well, obviously the governing agency that governs those background checks, which is your federal government, that's who's responsible for that. When I said earlier about what is my authority as sheriff, and that's what I'm saying, that's who oversees the background checks. It's a federal mandate. It's not a state and local law, it's a federal mandate. So if there's a failure in background checks, that's what it needs to be looked at that level. Sheriffs don't control background checks. I mean, we do oversee them, we do sign off on them. I've had since all the discussion, the debate when it comes to, possibly seizing guns and all this, and I've said this before, it's the violence behind is what we need to be looking at. How do we get here, and how do we get out of here? And I think it starts with each individual that's listening to this program, to include myself, to make a difference in our communities and become more situational aware of violent people that we need to report on.
Are there some weapons that are now legal that you feel are unnecessarily legal?
No, I said it before. In my comprehensive statement is we need to look at society and how we got here. We need to look at the behavior of people and how culturally we behave. And that's where the answers lie.
Okay.
That situational awareness.
You told me earlier that, and indeed you were here during the Monument Fire.
Correct.
A lot of good can be said about everyone who participated in that emergency.
True.
But I'm sure there were lessons to be learned as well, because we don't run across a situation like that every day.
Correct.
Were there lessons learned from the Monument Fire?
I believe so. And one of the biggest lessons that can be learned is the ability of different government organizations to work together. People don't care what people look for solutions and look for their elected officials, their government agencies to come together and do the right thing for them in a time of need. The Monument Fire, for example, an emergency situation. They don't look at territorial. They don't look at who's in charge. They look at let's get it done. One thing that I'm working on right now is the communication aspect of that. We are in the process. Our radio system here in Cochise County is in need of help, very much so. We are looking at putting together, besides upgrading our system, when we just got funded on that.
Are you talking about interoperability?
Interoperability, communication, intelligence center. We can put it all into one. You call 911, you have one center that controls all public safety in Cochise County. What a benefit to everybody that lives here. We're in the process. I just got a private donation. In fact, I picked up a check yesterday for $6 million from a private donation.
Don't do that every day.
Don't do that every day. No, that took a lot of work. And
Is that going to solve the problem? Is that
by the time we get done with it, we're upgrading all our towers in Cochise County, adding 2 more. I ordered 560 radios, both brand new radios for all the officers and sheriff's deputies for service to police department and the sheriff's department. We're the two leading agencies on this, to include all console upgrades for both Cochise County and service to police department.
I remember Larry Deaver talking about this very problem years ago, so this has taken some time. Do you see this interoperability situation now that you've got some money to throw at it? Will you have any further complaints in this regard after this process?
We're looking to, first of all, we're leveling and upgrading the VHF system here in Cochise County, for which will take care of, no matter if you're a fire department that's linked into one of the dispatch centers, it'll take care of all that. And then we're going to springboard here by next year to digital. Mm-hmm. So long story short is we'll have one of the best in the state, if not one of the best in the country, which is remarkable when it comes to officer safety in this county. Since I've worked here in this county, we've always had bad to good radio communications. We're now going to go from good to great.
So as it stands right now, not every agency is connected to every other agency in terms of communications.
Yeah, and the intelligence gathering. Criminals are mobile. We need to be smarter than that. In the fact that we have one center that links all the intel, that's very nice. Mm-hmm. So if somebody does a burglary in Wilcox but lives in Sierra Vista, we can start linking this together. If we have mirrored crimes, we can say, wait, the MO is the same on both these crimes. Mm-hmm. So again, and then if you call 911, if somebody's breaking into your home and you're in there in the closet calling 911, do you care what badge comes to your door to protect you? Worry about the logistics later when it comes to who's going to write the report. But we want to give the most effective and efficient responses to these, and whether it be a heart attack or whatever it may be, that's our goal. And it should affect every citizen in Cochise County in a positive way. So we're in process. We're moving forward.
And that leads to another question here from one of our subscribers. It says, occasionally we see or hear an event, a burglary, a robbery, a drug bust in our neighborhood, and there's seldom follow-up with information about the outcome. For example, there have been 2 burglaries in the Y Lightning Ranch Road area in the past month, and this was several weeks ago. Are they looking for anyone in particular? The real question here is, how can residents be informed about these issues accurately rather than relying on the rumor mill?
Well, number one is when somebody reports a crime, and let me go back just for a minute here. One thing I said when I took over was the transparency, both with using our media outlets, our community outreach meetings, a community service group we put together, all the different avenues that we could come up with that would help get our message out there. We want transparency in the sheriff's department. It's their sheriff's office. We want them to know that and what's going on, and ask the questions, the hard questions even. We might not have all the best answers, but we're going to answer it the best we can. But when somebody reports a crime, there's a form they get from, no matter what kind of crime it is, they get a form with a case number on it, the deputy's name, and a phone number to call. Call us. If they don't, we want our deputies interacting and calling back and giving updates. I can't speak on both those cases. I don't know about them. If they're related, they're not related. Mm-hmm. I know we have.
But the real question is that the people in the neighborhood are feeling left out informationally. In this particular instance, anyway, I don't have any idea if this is just anecdotal or people experience it far and wide. But is it something that you're at all concerned about in terms of, well, we have a couple of incidences here in our neighborhood, and a couple of incidences at the time might feel like an epidemic. And so how do we find out if we're getting the proper attention in our neighborhood, given that we've had a couple of things happen here and we don't know what the outcome is?
Well, anytime somebody's violated, whether somebody breaks in your home, which I think is not one of those horrific kind of crimes, if somebody comes in your home, that's a personal violation. Anytime somebody's violated and they have to report a crime and they've been a victim of a crime, I sympathize with them. And we want to make sure that quality investigation is put place. If there's a serial type crime going on, where there's a group of burglaries going on, we need to be getting back and talking to them about that. And I can't speak on this case unless I did some more checking. I want people to call me. If they're not happy with the service they're getting, call me, call my staff. We will respond. I will go see them. Again, I spend a little time here because I'm out there meeting with people.
And that is one thing you want people to know, is that you are the people's sheriff, and you are at your mark, and you are accessible.
Correct. I speak to many groups, like I said, and I talk to many people, and I have many discussions. We have many meetings in public places, and people say, "Why do you do that?" So people can see us. I wear a uniform because people know who I am. I'm a walking billboard. I want them to know who I am. But I also give out my cell number to the public. It's paid by the taxpayers. Phone sitting right there. They can have my cell number. There's no. I've given it to you. You give it to Jonathan. And I had a retired judge tell me the other day, he goes, I commend you, Mark. You're easy to get a hold of. And I want that to be the case. 2 a.m, if you've been victimized and you're not happy, you call me. I'll find some remedy. And we have the right to disagree when it's all over that, hey, I can't do anymore. There's some things I just can't do anymore on the case with, based on the facts and evidence of the case. But we're going to do our darndest to do quality work out there. Do we slip, make mistakes? Yeah, we do. I've done it. You've done it. But the bottom line is we're going to do everything we can. And if we make a mistake, let us know. Sometimes it's hard when you, it's a very large agency. And a lot of things I don't know about that goes on, but if they're not happy, we have a great leadership team. And again, I expect all my leaders in the organization not to be good, but great. And that is so we can help others.
I got about a minute for this question before I turn it over to Jonathan to talk about the border. And like you said, it's a big agency, and you don't know everything
Correct.
That's going on. Are you sensitive to the fact that there's at least a little corruption everywhere you go when it comes to government? And are you sensitive to the fact that there may be corruption right here in your own department?
Well, and I think let me say this. We've had a couple employees, several employees. I made it an expectation when I was telling you about the orientation. The decision to work at the Cochise County Sheriff's Department is not mine. I'll make a critical decision, but the decision to work here is based on every employee's decision and behavior on and off duty. If those choose, we've, in the paper here a couple months ago, we had a detention officer with 300 pounds of marijuana. Let me tell you how that came about. We had a tip. My own investigators went down there and did a knock and talk on his house, and we discovered the drugs. We called another agency in to make the arrest, which is the right thing to do.
Little surprise visit there.
Yeah, a little surprise visit. I don't put up with, we're role models in our communities. If you can't be a role model, you won't work here. It's that simple. If we get information, I work with other agencies on the corruption side of it. If we get information, we will do the right thing. This ain't a cover-up. This is a place where we need to be role models. And we hire the best so we can be the best. And that's not, I know it sounds corny, but it's real. And so I tell people all the time, decision to work here is not mine, it's theirs. And I did it in Oregon, I'll do it here, and we'll continue on that thought process.
I promise one more quick question concerning the DUI checkpoints. And I know that you have a personal vendetta when it comes to drunk driving. That comes from your childhood. I believe you lost your mother
Correct.
in an accident. And
Correct.
I won't get into that, but people are sensing, and I don't get that people are against this at all. I think they're very in favor of it. But has that intensified since you took office, or is it pretty much the same program it's been for a few years
Same program.
now?
I was in 1997, myself and 3 other agency coordinators came together and said, we need to do a DUI task force here. No agency can combat the dangers from drinking and driving. So we came together. We've become one of the better task forces in the state. And when it comes to combat and making highway and community safer. We run about 1 to 2 checkpoints a year. We had one here 2 months ago.
You were out at the Circle just a couple of weeks ago, weren't you?
No, we actually were over by Tombstone, believe it or not. We set our checkpoints up in a strategic point based on collisions, based on need. Checkpoints to me, I'll be honest with you, based on my experience, are very good marketing and awareness tools. Where the motoring public knows we're out there, we're trying to make our highways safer. I don't want to be on a highway, and hopefully you all don't. Hopefully the listening public here doesn't want to be on a highway with somebody that's a .20 that's endangering all our lives, it's going to kill us. I have a zero tolerance for those that like to drink and drive. And whether I stop them or my deputy stop them or another officer, we'll arrest them. There's no doubt about that.
Even you'll be asked as a driver, have you been drinking, or something to that effect. And I understand that in the state of Arizona, if you say, yes, I've had a beer, that you're a suspect because there's no tolerance whatsoever.
The element in the state of Arizona for DUI impairment is impairment to the slightest degree. We have to reach that standard. So I stop people all the time, that said, yeah, I've had a beer, had 2 beers, I've had 3 beers. We'll get out. There's 3 phases of a DUI investigation. I'm one of the instructors for DUI. We'll go through the 3 phases. If it's there's no probable cause to arrest, we don't arrest just because they've been drinking. Drinking and driving is not a crime. Drinking impaired is a crime. And so I make sure there's a separation on that. The the .08 means nothing to our law, I'll be honest with you, when it comes, that's a motor vehicle for a license suspension. We look at the
It's a standard of sorts.
Yes, for motor vehicle. We look at the criminal element as impairment to the slightest degree. That's the element we need to prove when it comes to arresting somebody for DUI.
No,
and the benefit always goes toward the driver.
But anyone who's had 3 drinks has got to be at least slightly impaired, wouldn't you say?
It depends on the individual and what they've ate that day, what kind of condition they are, what kind of fitness they're in. There's so many variables to that.
Right.
And again, it all depends on the person.
Okay.
And that's why we have, and it should be, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, yes, you're right, I lost my mom. But the bottom line is this, that we want fair application of the laws, not personal application, fair application, based on our professional standards and legal standards. So we'll do what's right there. But my job as a public safety official, as a sheriff, is to provide safety in communities and highways.
For all of us.
All of us, you bet.
Good. All right. We've got about 15 minutes left, and so I'd like to turn it over to Jonathan to discuss border type issues.
Thanks, Chuck.
Obviously, Cochise County is a border county with Mexico. Your predecessor, Larry Deaver, refused to cross the border into Mexico.
Correct.
The question is, do you cross? And if not, why? Why not?
I don't cross. I don't cross for my own safety. There's citizens that are concerned about their own safety, let alone the chief law enforcement officer of Cochise County going across there. So I don't. No, I don't. Based on the uncertainties. And they don't have what we embrace and we're proud of, is called the Constitution, that protects us in our country and provides us the cornerstone of everything our freedom, our liberties. It's different over there. And I'm not being critical of that. There's great people live in Mexico, by all means. But based on my stance, I'm out to get the ones that smuggle drugs and the ones that do the human smuggling and the coyotes and the bandits. And over the years I've seen the kidnappers come over and kidnap our folks. I mean, I stand against that. So I have a strong stance on that. And for me to go over there, I don't know what purpose it'd serve, because I lose my constitutional protection over there. So,
Is the sheriff's office concerned with the violence that happens along the border, whether it's in northern Mexico or spillover, so to speak?
Yes, we are. I mean, that's our neighbor. There's a fence, there's a line, sometimes imaginary, sometimes physical, but they're our neighbors. And there's some good people. I said that before, and I'll say it again. There's good people who live in Mexico. They're raising families and raising kids and want the best out of their lives. So yes, we're very concerned about that. They have family on this side. We have family on that side. So you bet we're concerned. And I don't think a line is, we're going to keep it separated. We know that. Those cartels and those criminals come on our side to profit. They have a need to be here. And that need is that the people that buy our drugs in this country like their product. So yeah, I'm very concerned about that.
What are the challenges for the sheriff's office to work with the federal authorities, in particular the Border Patrol? And what steps is the sheriff's office taking to improve the relationship? Well,
I'll make a quote to you. Jeff Self, who is a commander for Border Patrol, oversees a portion of the Customs ICE, the immigration side, the inspectors that work the ports, primarily, I believe. Jeff and I worked the road years ago. Jeff's a good friend of mine. Jeff and I came together shortly after my election and spent some time together about, do we share a common leadership to serve all the citizens of Cochise County and this great nation? I look at it this way: the people that are coming through here, whether it be smugglers with dope going back in the Midwest, New York, where they're going to, whether it be terrorists or whatever it may be, or those just come up here to violate and steal our property and violate and go into homes, we share that common thought that we need to make a difference in our leadership and being top leaders in this area. Jeff runs Arizona. We have combined forces with a leadership and mission in mind, and that is, we have set up a border team, and that border team consists of 12 members made up of Forest Service personnel, sheriff personnel. We're looking at some locals to come, police departments to join force, Border Patrol, I believe, Customs, analysts coming into that from the federal government. And their job is not to sit at the border. That's a federal issue, and I'll be the first to say it. We're not going to sit down on our nexus. What we're going to do is work the open seams in Cochise County, where we know the pathways where they're coming through and violating our lands, and also the private lands and public lands in partnership with those owners, those private landowners. And that comes through a ranch patrol group that we put together, made up 2 deputies, and their job solely is to work with the ranchers and agricultural folks here in Cochise County. What can we do for you to make your lives better and help you promote your business? And bring that intelligence back to this border team so they can do it, lay-ins and operations, and gather this intel and make a difference in what goes on here. It's a tough challenge. I got limited resources. I mean, very limited resources. I got 86 deputies. The federal government, Border Patrol has 1,300, Custom has 200, 1,500 federal immigration agents in this county. That's a blessing to our economic situation in Cochise County. And I look at that as a partner in the fight and the safety of our communities. That's a good thing to have, if we do it right, under our mission. I mean, I don't have control of Washington, D.C. I don't tell them what to do. I don't set the plan for Border Patrol throughout this country. But with the helps to Jeff Self and his leadership team, Manny Padilla, Chief Sector, Customs, their folks at Customs and ICE, we're making a difference. I feel very confident that we have a very good thing going here right now. It's kind of a pilot program, I'll be honest with you. And I've been asked what's going to happen if the federal government tries to break it up, or anybody else. We're going to stand united on that. I have a detective signed to Customs Enforcement. ATF has an agent signed to me. I have, like I just said, all the folks from the federal agencies signed to me under the border team. So all that works well. And last but not least, we set together a community outreach team. And that team consists of 4 people, both civilians from this department and sworn, and their job is to go out and do outreach within the communities. 21 schools fall under the umbrella of the Sheriff's Office. We've gone to every school and said, hey, we'll do a vulnerability study for an active shooter or some violence in your school. We'll train your staff free of charge, and we'll let you know where you're vulnerable at. We did to the Boys and Girls Club in Sierra Vista, which I'm a board member over there. Free of charge, went in there. We got trained people to do that. And I look at this. I'm not going to play the if game or even the win game. I am going to play the win game when it comes to reducing the WIN, reducing the vulnerability in our schools and protect our kids. We're going to do that. We're going to do the best we can with limited resources.
Yeah, that was a very comprehensive answer. And the next question you may have partially answered, but feel free to expand upon it. The BAG.
Right.
Please tell the listeners what that stood for. Well, stands for. I understand it no longer exists, and so I guess the question is, what is the status of BAG, and what is the Sheriff's Office doing to address the topic? What it did.
Sheriff Deaver had disbanded the BAG, which was a Border Alliance group, which we were the host agency for a regional narcotics task force, and that's what that stood for. So what we've done is partnered up with the other organizations, make sure that all our narcotics units are working together in the county, because you have a plethora of different agencies, DPS, DEA. We do have 2 slots over at DEA paid by the federal government, which I backfilled to hire 2 more deputies so we don't lose any patrol function on the road. So, but we need to be sharing intel. We need to be working together with a common goal, not a driven goal for one agency, but everybody needs to share that. And we have a narcotics team, and my narcotics team is focused under our mission. And what I mean by that is they work strictly in the communities for the meth dealers, the drug dealers in our communities. And that's where I want the community, the listening community, to call us. Call us. These guys, that's what they do, is to go in these communities, identify these people. We'll go knock on their door, depending on who it is, what's going on. We'll go knock and we'll let them know, just like we did my own detention officer. We're not immune from that. And if they're doing the drugs, we want to make our communities safer. My deputies are in the communities now for a reason, and that's where I want them. And we'll go knock on the door. We'll let them know, hey, we know you're selling dope. We're going to be watching you. If we can't make the arrest, we're going to get you. Time's your enemy. We'll be there. So, again, that's what I stand for.
Okay, so you're still able to do your duties without having BAG, without having the.
Yeah, we had to refocus, restructure, and just make sure we're applying the right application to our drugs.
Okay. Senate version of the immigration reform bill at the last minute calls for 20,000 more troops on the ground for Border Patrol, and the extension of the border fence. Are these good ideas?
Let me say this. The Southwest Border Sheriff's opposed SB. No. What's the bill you're talking about?
The immigration bill?
Yes.
Board. And let me throw some thoughts that we've shared as border sheriffs on this, all the way from Texas to California. Number one is we don't want to blend border security and immigration reform. Two separate comprehensive issues.
And yet they don't seem to want to separate them.
Well, we do. We've asked for that. We've made that clear. We've sent up our thoughts on that. So we oppose that.
So border security, because what we hear from Washington is that, which would seem like an impediment to immigration reform, is that we want the borders secured first. And here's how we suggest that happen. We'll add 20,000 Border Patrol agents, and we'll add miles and miles to the fence. And before the first person can qualify to become a citizen here in the United States, we have to agree that the border is secure. This is how we think we should do it. When in fact, there doesn't seem to be agreement on when the border is secure.
Well, and that's the million-dollar question. There's no doubt about that. Let me give you a little history. And Sheriff Deaver and I are actually at this press conference together in the 90s, where the federal government came up with the plan of border security. It's one of the initial plans. And I've worked in this county long enough where I remember there's half a dozen agents in Naco alone. There's 500, almost 500 now. 1,300 in our county. You can see the difference. Is the border more secure? In many ways it is. Is it secure and to the point we can put a maintenance key in it? No, it's not. In certain parts of the southwest border, it's almost like a example plan for many parts of the border. Yuma, they have a double border. They have immigration, have buses going on the border, bringing them up, the migrant workers up to work. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on in Yuma. Is it happening in Cochise County? Partially. Am I satisfied with it? No, I'm not. And I'll say it. I can't say this loud enough. Border security shouldn't be discretionary. It should be a mandate. And it's become discretionary on certain parts of the border. In the 90s, when they came out with their border security plan, was to reroute the illegal traffic, the smugglers, the drug runners, now becoming a human smuggling issue, all this, and very violent as it's grown over the years, which concerns me greatly, is the fact that they routed with their plan of the 90s into the non-populated areas of the southwest border. We're considered a non-populated area. Parts of New Mexico, parts of Texas, Del Rio. We're all in serious, dire straits right now, in trouble because of this plan of the 90s. I have expressed this numerous times. They need, before they do anything, is redefine their plan. I'll give you an example. They just funded 14 cameras in Yuma, which is a very, very secure part of our southwest border. The sheriff and I tease each other all the time about that. He's a great guy. We're getting 7. From in a fence line to in a fence line. The open seams on both sides still stays open. Tell me where that's helping us. I'll be honest with you, I'm very upset about that. I'm very vocal when it comes to this. And because the homes that are being broken into, the violence, the Krenz case, these are all senseless, discretionary plans, as I call it. We need to make this mandate. So we're going to take it serious. Let's take it serious.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me that to this day, someone will come from Washington to review our border and leave saying, I had no idea.
Thank you. And I leave an open invitation. I've been on Fox, CNN, all different stations, NBC, radio, and all the other ones saying, if you're going to be part of a problem and you want to be part of the solution, come visit it. The violence in Chicago with youth violence right now is out of control. We all know that in this country. You can't pick up the news without watching something in Chicago. If they reached out to me and said, Sheriff, what do you think we should do? I would fail them if I maybe gave an offer from here without going there and seeing what's really going on there. What's the cultural beliefs? What's going on? What's society thinking over there? What's the behavior mode? That's stuff I'm talking about when it comes to all this violence. And we're not going to pinpoint one artifact saying this is the issue. We need to look at the behavior that's going on. I can tell you what the behavior on this border is. It's unstable. It's unrest. The people who live here are tired. They're tired of being tormented by what's going through their property and being at risk and vulnerable. It's a federal issue. There's no doubt about it. But as their sheriff and elected official, I'm going to do my part. And I'll continue doing that. I'll continue being their voice. I've joined many, many organizations from the Sheriff's View, Western Sheriffs, National Sheriffs, Alliance to Combat Transnational Threats, Southwest Border Sheriff voice, a member of the IACP, International Association, Chief of Police. I will voice to any group I get my hands on and say, this is what's really going on here. I talked to McCain, Flake, had a teleconference 2 days ago with Congressman McCall of Texas. He has a revised plan that we at the Southwest Border Sheriffs, though we're not jumping down doing cartwheels, we think it's better than what's already being presented. And we're throwing some support to that. And one thing that bothers me is the 90%. I'll just share this with you. One of my hesitation comes from. The goal is a 90% effective rate. Well, I don't know about your lives. I don't ever do anything at 90%. We don't strive for kids in school, our youth, to go 90%. We strive for 100%. I actually strive for 110%. If I'm having a bad day, it still gets me at 100%. So why is our federal government looking at 90%? The generality with the plan scare me. Past history scares me. But I am very comfortable and very confident that the local leadership from our federal government, the men and women of Border Patrol and Customs, do a great job under the plan they have, under the direction they have. And now with the leadership I think in our local area by our federal government, we can make a difference at this level. Texas, New Mexico, and California, I can't answer for, but I'm going to do my part here.
We would like to remind people who may not know you quite so well that there is no I in Dannels.
No, there's not.
Sheriff, we appreciate the time that you've spent with us, and we came here, much like you do, we're here to serve our public.
That's correct.
And we leave hoping that you'll want to do this again.
I do. And you know, I work for all the people in Cochise County. I'm a voice for all of them. I'm there to make their lives hopefully better. Anybody has a question about the sheriff's office, what's going on, they want to meet me, come on in, I'll come to them. I'd rather go to them. I'd rather go see them. That's save their time and gas. I'll go to them.
You want to put out your phone number right here?
Sure. Anybody's got any questions, give me a call. My cell number, my office number, I'll give you that first. It's 432-9505. My cell number is 732-0930. Give me a call. Love to meet with them. If somebody has a concern, something that's said here today, give me a call, or somebody wants to say nice job to the deputies. And the other thing I tell people when I speak to them, the groups, this is their sheriff's office. You know, I'm the face of the sheriff. No question about that. You know, the people that serve, the men and women in the sheriff's office, are the face of the sheriff's office. They need to know who's serving for them. Come out and ride with our sheriff's department. Come out and look at our jail. Come do a tour of our jail. Come tour our facilities. No matter where you live in the county, we have satellite facilities. We got 2 jails, one in Wilcox, one in Sierra Vista, and our main one here. Come out and visit their facilities, and we're glad to give them that tour.
You've been more than generous with your time, and we thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jonathan.